take just the killing school. Class start next week. You gotta at least have 2.
I'm taking just the killing school class start next week. You got to at least have 2 bodies. Though here that's not just rap talk. That was Lil Jeff live and unfiltered setting the entrance requirements for his so-called killing school, from openly bragging about bodies in his diss track Ftu to mocking fallen rivals with zero remorse. His reputation as one of the most ruthless figures in the streets only grew. This was a man who turned violence into entertainment. Laughing about real-life murders on Instagram like it was just another joke, and if that wasn't enough he took it a step further, gunning down 2 high school students and still finding a way to joke about it online. Cold-blooded, unfiltered, absolutely savage. These are Lil Jeff's most savage moments. Murders Lil Gutter in a targeted hit. Lil Jeff lived by one rule: strike first, and make it brutal. Of all the things he did, this was among the most ruthless. A broad daylight execution carried out without hesitation, no mask, no fear, just a clear message to the streets: if you cross Lil Jeff, there's no warning, just bullets. This guy was not the type to let things slide. When someone from his side got killed, he made sure there was payback, and on May 13, 2021 he did exactly that. It was a regular afternoon near East 79th Street in Chicago. The streets were busy, cars rolled by, people stood around talking, and shops had customers going in and out. Nobody knew that a killing was about to happen. Lil Jeff had been watching Lil Gutter, real Nam Ronnie LCIS Drunk Jr. for a while. Gutter was moving like he had no enemies, walking through the city without a care, but his name had already been linked to CRW murder a month earlier, and that was a serious problem. Whether Gutter had actually been involved didn't matter. What mattered was that Jeff believed he was. Jeff waited for the right moment. He wasn't the type to rush things. Gutter had just come out of a store, checking his phone, completely unaware of what was coming. Jeff moved in quickly, no words, no warnings. Bang, the first shot hit Gutter in the chest. His body jerked and his phone fell from his hands before he could react. Another shot, then another, each one meant to make sure he wasn't getting back up. People screamed, some ducked, others ran. Jeff didn't stick around. He walked off, blending into the crowd like nothing had happened. By the time police arrived, Gutter was already dead. Witnesses had seen what happened, but no one was willing to talk. The streets knew who was responsible, but no one wanted to be next. A daytime hit was already a moment that had the streets whispering. But Jeff didn't just stop there. He took his savagery to the mic and turned 7 bodies into lyrics. Boasts about killing 7 people in Ftu. The drill scene had always been filled with bold lyrics and street talk, but in March 2024 a song dropped that had people questioning whether the words were just music or real confessions. The track was called Ftu, and as soon as it hit the streets it became one of the most talked about songs that year. Lil Jeff and Vert had been teasing the release for weeks. When it finally dropped, the energy was violent, raw and reckless. The lyrics had no filter. Jeff rapped about taking 7 lives, bragging like it was just another achievement. The way he delivered it was too specific, too detailed, making people wonder if he had really done everything he claimed. But one part of the song stood out more than anything else. Jeff called out Lil by name, mocking his death with the line, "Lo all dumb in a pack we smoke him." It wasn't just a disrespectful line, it was a direct celebration of someone's murder. That was not the only part that got people talking. Another verse mentioned how his old friends whom he used to be cool with have now become his ops. He also mentioned how his crew had shot so much on Rads Avenue that their enemies had to shut down their drug spots. If true, this meant his side had not just taken lives but also taken over entire trap operations, forcing their rivals to leave the area. The song spread fast. It was played in cars, blasted at parties, and debated in drill forums. People argued about whether Jeff's claims were exaggerated or if he had really dropped 7 bodies. No matter what the truth was, one thing was clear: Jeff had no fear of what he said or who heard it. His reputation for snitching was already growing, but Ftu took it to another level. Now, was Jeff exaggerating his numbers, or was he really keeping score? That question didn't last long, because his next moment made it clear that when Jeff rapped about murder, it wasn't fiction. Gets revenge for Z Money by killing Lil Pooh. Lil Jeff had been waiting for the right time, and when the moment came he made sure it was merciless. Z Money's death had left a wound that only blood could close, and in March 2023 Jeff set his sights on Lil Pooh. Pooh, real name Pierre Boozer Jr., had been moving around like nothing had changed. He still showed up in familiar places, still laughed with his people, still acted as if his name wasn't being whispered in the streets. But Jeff had already decided that Pooh wasn't going to see the summer. The plan was set in motion. Days before, Jeff didn't move sloppy. He didn't just roll up and start shooting. Instead, he let Pooh's own routine work against him. He sent word through mutuals, spreading talk that a certain block Was safe again knowing Pooh would hear it. Pooh took the bait, showing up like nothing was wrong that night. The trap was set. Pooh pulled into the driveway of his home, the place he always returned to after a long day. He stepped out of his car, noting at someone he recognized. The night was quiet with only the distant hum of the city in the background. Everything seemed normal. Then the lights in the lot flickered a small moment, barely noticeable, but in that second of distraction a figure moved out of the shadows. The first shot hit Pooh's leg, dropped to the ground, grabbing his knee, trying to crawl toward his home. He didn't make it. More shots followed, fast and unrelenting. The last one hit him in the back of the head, leaving him face down on the pavement. A car engine roared, tires screeched, and the shooter was gone. Witnesses stood frozen, and when the police arrived nobody had seen a thing, but the streets knew. A year later, Jeff made sure the message was clear when he left a comment on an Instagram post about Pooh, confirming the motive. Disrespecting Z Money came with consequences. Then came the leaked song Days before Jeff's own death. He rapped about hiding in the grass waiting to strike, describing the exact way Pooh had been caught after taking out Lil Pooh. Most would have laid low, but Jeff, he wasn't done proving himself. His next moment came fast, and this time bullets were flying from a moving car. Orders a drive-by on Black. Lil Jeff had made a lot of enemies, and when things got serious he did not hesitate to remove them. In March 2022 the streets started buzzing about a drive-by shooting and chatting. The target was Roger Lewis, known as Black, a 33-year-old OG who had been well respected in his area. Black had been standing outside his house that evening. He was talking with someone, not paying attention to the street, unaware that a car had been rolling by slowly. The people inside were watching him closely, waiting for the right moment. The driver kept steady and the back seat window was slightly open as the car crept closer. There was a brief pause, then the sound of rapid gunfire filled the air. Black barely had time to react. He tried to turn, but bullets had already ripped through him. His body dropped near the sidewalk as the car sped off, disappearing down the street before anyone could get a good look at it. The neighborhood fell silent for a moment. A few people ducked inside their houses, others peeked out, already knowing there was nothing they could do. By the time the police arrived, Black was gone. A month later, a man named Trayvon Dix was arrested in connection to the shooting, but even after his arrest people kept talking. Many believed Jeff had ordered the hit. The tension between his crew and Black's people had been getting worse, and this felt like a move to settle things. Jeff never addressed the rumors, but he did what he always did. He let his music do the talking. A few weeks later he dropped a song with lyrics that made people wonder. He mentioned how some older guys think they run things until they get caught standing outside at the wrong time. A drive-by was already a wild moment, but Jeff had a habit of outdoing himself. When two bodies dropped on the same night, the streets knew this wasn't just war, it was domination. Orchestrates of double murder. Lil Jeff had been involved in a lot of street violence, but November 1st, 2023 stood out as one of his most ruthless moments. Two people lost their lives that night, and what many believed was a planned execution. The targets were Denardo Buford, known as Lil Deuce, and Desiree McGee, known as D Money. The two friends had been sitting in a parked car on South Dorchester Avenue, probably thinking it was just another night. They might have been talking, scrolling through their phones, or just passing time. They had no idea they were being watched. A black SUV had been circling the area. It passed by once, then again, moving slowly. No one inside the car made any sudden moves. They were waiting for the right moment. Then it happened. The SUV stopped a few feet away. The door swung open, and before anyone could react, gunmen stepped out. In open fire, glass shattered, bullets ripped through metal and flesh. Little Deuce and Money never had a chance to escape. The attack was over in seconds, but the damage was done by the time the shooters got back into the SUV and sped off. Both victims were critically wounded. They were rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center, but it was too late. Neither of them survived. The police arrived quickly, finding multiple shell casings scattered around the scene, but as always no one was willing to talk the case.